Hi everyone, welcome into this week's My Weekly CBS Fix. I hope you had a wonderful week. In this week's Parsha Shoftim, the Torah delineates the parameters of how the Jewish people can go about having a Jewish king. It can certainly have one, has to be a Jewish king, and the Torah gives three warnings. One is that make sure he doesn't have too many horses, and the horses may lead bringing back to Egypt. Second, the king was not allowed to have too many wives, and he also wasn't allowed to amass too much gold and silver. Now, when the Torah talks about him having too many wives, is because maybe they'll turn his heart away, and he may possibly come to serving idolatry. So what's interesting is that when it comes to the prohibition of him having too many horses, so the Torah says, don't have any horses in order that he shouldn't lead you back to Egypt. So the question is, what's the connection between having horses and going back to Egypt? So Raje says very simply that in Egypt, that was the nearest empire, and if people wanted horses, you went to the dealer. Where was the dealer? The dealer was down in Egypt, and so Rashi's explained that there was concern that there would be a back and forth between Israel and Egypt, and people may become frequent Egypt. But I possibly wanted to share with you something that I saw in the Medrash that might be a slightly different understanding of what the connection is between the horses and Egypt. Now, the Torah was really worried over here with this prohibition for the king to have too many horses, was acquiring an Egyptian mindset. The monarchs of ancient times used to try to show how powerful they were by having as many steeds and stallions and horses as they can, and that kind of aggrandized their might. And by acquiring that many horses, the mindset that the Jewish king is supposed to have, which is a Torah mindset, may take on a 180 and may lead him back to Egypt. What does that mean, lead him back to Egypt? Not necessarily that it would lead him back to the land of Egypt, but it would land him back in an Egyptian mindset. The Egyptian mindset was one of two things. A, was in a mindset of materialism, and the more and more you have, the better. And the Torah was worried if the king carried too many horses or too much gold and silver, he would have the same thought. And the second mindset was a mindset of arrogance. Having too many things could lead a person to be arrogant. And certainly materialism and arrogance sometimes go hand in hand. And Hashem, therefore, was warning the Jewish king, don't get too full of yourself. Don't own too much because you are not in power, but rather, what is the Jewish king's success? The Jewish king's success is always remembering that it's Hashem who is the Baal Machama, it's Hashem who is the master of all wars, and Hashem Ish Machama, Hashem is the man of war. And if the Jewish people had fear of heaven and we did Hashem's will, then all the Jewish people were guaranteed a victory. And that's what the Torah then goes on to say, but rather, what should the king actually have? Should have two Torahs written for himself. He's got to read from it all the time. If he always kept the Torah mindset, then the Jewish people were guaranteed to always have peace and to live prosperly in their own lands without needing recourse of going down to Egypt. And therefore the Torah says, Rak lo yirbelei susim, do not have too many horses, meaning, and going back to Egypt, acquire that Egyptian mindset. Hashem took us out of Egypt, specifically that we shouldn't have the Egyptian mindset. Many wealthy people, as we know, one of the ways they like to show off their wealth, they purchase this massive hangar, and in the hangar they put a whole bunch of fancy Italian sports cars or whatnot to show their might, to show their prestige. And that is a way that Hashem does not want us to do, and the Jewish king as well. Rather keep a Torah mindset, not an Egyptian mindset. Horsepower means nothing to Hashem. Hashem doesn't care about the might of the horse, but rather, Raje Hashem is Hashem wants those that fear him. Have a great Shabbos. Thank you for listening.